What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Makeshift Managers Podcast. Austin, Devin.
We are
It's just
here.
that
We are
easy.
live. Yeah, it's easy as one, two, three, as some may say. Some things that are not so easy, Austin. Playing professional football. God,
Come on now.
this weekend was insane. It had everything: historic collapses, dumb plays, ignorant head coaches being bailed out. I
Ignorant
if you
head coaches not being bailed out.
if you were looking for something, this weekend had it. You had divisional matchups. You had backup quarterbacks. I mean, it had everything. Snowball fights. The NFL was insane this weekend. I genuinely can't describe it any other way. Um, we started our weekend off pretty hot on Saturday whenever we were doing start sits between you and I. Shout out everybody for joining us on the shows Saturday and Sunday. It was a great time, but go ahead and fire it off. Like Thursday feels tame compared to what everything else that followed.
I mean, you want to talk about a week to praise your stud quarterbacks that you took early in the first round in fantasy. Josh Allen, 44 points on Saturday. Kirk Cousins, 40 points on Saturday. That's just two quarterbacks who balled out on Saturday. Tua didn't have the best game, but Raheem Mostert had a really good game. Matt Ryan did not have a good game. Watson and Huntley. Watson just didn't look any better after kind of looking better the week before. Which doesn't really surprise me. Like, let's talk to Sean Watson. Obviously, his value at this point is not going to be worth anything on your playoff push. You got a couple of weeks left. Maybe you're playing week 18 playoffs for some reason. But for this week, you got semifinals for most. And the week after that, you'll have finals. Deshaun Watson is not really. You get a lot of Deshaun Watson questions for sure. But he plays New Orleans and then he plays Washington. So not the worst matchups in the world, but in redraft, he probably doesn't feel worth having at this point. And in Dynasty, you're kind of hoping he gets it together next year.
Yeah, the Deshaun Watson thing was always kind of like hoping you caught lightning in a bottle. I am someone that has picked up Watson in a good number of leagues in anticipation of his return to fantasy football. I wasn't picking him up more so expecting him to be a factor for my team. I was picking him up as a defense mechanism for anybody else to pick him up if he were to break out. Because it's one thing for me to beat somebody starting Deshaun Watson. It's another thing entirely for them to start Deshaun Watson and beat me. I'm in positions in the leagues where I have Deshaun Watson where I should not have to have him take the field. That's where I've set myself up at quarterback. But he was always this late season flyer or early season stash where you were hoping you could break the glass if he eventually took off. Based upon what we've seen from Deshaun so far this year, there's some dust on the bottle. This guy hasn't played in 2+ years. This shit happens. It's kind of hard to play quarterback in the NFL. I'll look at his numbers right now.
And he's
But
not
as
on
we
a
were,
terrible offense either, but the Browns don't have, their first round picks for a little bit. So it's not really like they can shore up the line. Like, obviously, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples Jones, David Bell, Nick Chubb are going to be that on the offense for a while and will, benefit from having a better quarterback if Deshaun is 80% of what he was in Houston. If he's 100% of what he was in Houston, the Browns are a playoff contender, even a Super Bowl contender if they got their defense together, because he was carrying a bad Houston team to the playoffs just by shooting everybody. And now he has a
yeah,
much better team than he did in Houston.
I get you on that. This Browns team has been the NFL's ragtag bunch of overachievers over the last 3 to 5 years. They had a head coach who coaches extremely good football for portions of seasons. I'm not incredibly sold on the Browns with Deshaun Watson. They kind of like the Broncos made a move in the immediate to try and expand whatever window they had or capitalize on whatever window they thought they had. The Watson deal feels a lot better than Denver's because Russell Wilson is closer to 35 than any of us are at this point, including
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson. And they paid him out the gate. Granted, Deshaun's making fully guaranteed $230 million. Down 6.5.
Let's see. You have A-Rod, your opponent. Yeah, Matt Gay hit a 55, dude. Matt Gay is brutal.
He's got a
We're
leg.
tied now. You're down 6. I still think you have plenty of a chance. I would be confident that you could still have this game for sure. A-Rod still probably has at least a touchdown in him, which is 4, and you're getting a point every 25 yards.
And if he runs one in, any quarterback sneak Rodgers gets, that's points in your AJ Dillon.
So Rodgers has 108 and a pick. But yeah, AJ Dillon stole a touchdown from Aaron Rodgers. It's 10-6. Aaron Rodgers is going to come out. I'm not too sure who gets the ball after halftime. TD I feel fine then. If
Rodgers
is going to
find the end zone.
If you have standard scoring, I would feel more than fine then. I wouldn't be too worried yet. Rodgers is still going to go out there and throw the ball. I'm not 10,000% sure who gets the ball at halftime or after halftime. I think it's I'm pretty sure it's Green Bay, so they get to go out and set the pace, and they looked really good on their last scoring drive. I think Watson has not played ball in over a year. MVP form? Next year, probably not. I foresee Deshaun Watson being around 65 to 75% of what he was in Houston. A full offseason is going to do him great, don't get me wrong, and he has good weapons. But
so the Deshaun question for me, this year it was never going to be the Browns didn't trade for Deshaun Watson for this year. The Browns traded for Deshaun Watson for the next 5 years. But the problem with trading for Deshaun Watson at this point is, Deshaun is incredibly talented. The things he was doing in Houston were all world level. He was within that upper cusp of like elite quarterbacks in terms of his on-field talent. It's going to take a while to shake off the rust. And while I understand he was playing for middling Texans teams for most of the time he was there, he did have a guy named DeAndre Hopkins as his number one target for a majority of the time in Houston. And another problem that I have looking forward with Deshaun Watson is the Browns have never been a competent passing offense, regardless of who Kevin Stefanski has had at quarterback. Jacoby Brissett ran this offense very admirably, but my problem here is they were running the offense as good as they possibly could. I just feel like whatever momentum they had going with Jacoby has been just put on halt, and now they're reintegrating Deshaun, which granted it's the last season. They're not making the playoffs. Get Deshaun his reps. But even start of next season, I'm not going to count him in as an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
The guy had a full training camp. He was playing during the preseason. He only missed 12 weeks. He has been with the team practicing. Too. And so he's going to be better, and it's going to get better over time. But losing 2 years of your athletic prime, like the NFL is way different than the NBA or even Major League Baseball. These NFL players usually come in around 24, 25 years old, give or take, or like 23 at the earliest, 22 to 23 years old. So Deshaun right now is sitting at, how old is Deshaun Watson?
And the thing is, too, like Caden says, like none of us will agree with what he did. Obviously, what he did is extremely egregious, way out of line, illegal, all this, all that. But at this point, it's over for the most part. I obviously could come back. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not this and that. But the personal stuff is over. Now it's time for him to get back to football, which he's really good at. So,
and
much less distractions.
Yeah, a big thing with Deshaun is he's 27 years old. He's going to be 28 years old going into the next season. And I know the big thing is like, well, Patrick Mahomes is going to be 28 next year. Patrick Mahomes is in a system with a head coach and an offense that he has effectively ran for the last 5 years to all-time levels. Deshaun Watson got placed into a team that he's never played with, and he just started playing for literally 3 weeks ago, and he's being paid the most amount of guaranteed money in NFL history. He has to be an MVP for this deal to have made sense. And to sit here and bank on the fact that he is going to be an MVP on this roster, I'm not going to believe it until I see it. He was great in Houston. I think we underplay the talent that he played with in Houston to a lower extent. Davis Mills playing for this version of the Houston Texans makes them look even worse. But Deshaun had decent defenses there for a portion in time.
Mhm.
Deshaun had Laramie Tunsil as his blindside blocker. Deshaun Watson had weapons. Will Fuller. You had guys like Brandon Cooks. And he has improved over the last 3 weeks. But the Deshaun Watson thing, it's not going to be something you're going to be able to break the glass for this season to finish out.
Yeah.
Because by the time that you could have started him, you're going to be chasing the points, and it's probably going to be a week too late.
He's going to be a really good improvement, though, for Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones next season. Those guys are going to be some wide receivers I think you can get in the middle rounds that will win you some leagues, especially Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper is going to go off.
If they can build a connection over the offseason in a way that I expect them to, Amari Cooper's going to come back as one of the top 15 options at receiver. Because he was literally top 10, give or take, for a good portion of Jacoby Brissett. If he can build a rapport with a guy like Deshaun Watson, he's going to take over leagues next year. And Donovan Peoples-Jones has been so consistent. The 1-2 punch is underrated in Cleveland.
Oh, it's so good. And once the passing game gets better, it just opens up doors for Nick Chubb, who's easily a top 7 back in the league, but top 5 maybe in terms of talent. Just the numbers haven't been there the last couple of weeks, but to no fault of his own is that he can't really get through that line, and he's probably facing a stacked box most of the time anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, quarterbacks came up to show this week. Like Trevor Lawrence, dude. Trevor Lawrence put up 36 points this week against the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm not going to get into the semantics of the game. I got into it on Twitter respectfully, but I'm not going to get into that. What I'm going to get into is Trevor Lawrence, dude. That's 36 points with a fumble too. He's the real deal, dude. 27 for 42, 318, and 4 touchdowns. This dude could lead his team to the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it's well within the house of cards, without a doubt.
Zay Jones got 3 touchdowns. Zay Jones is wide receiver 1 this week. 6 receptions, 109 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Like, are you kidding me? And this team gets Calvin Ridley next year?
Well, if you're looking at the receiver was super volatile this week in fantasy. If we're looking on Sleeper right now, I'm assuming both of us. The top finishers in the league that we are in together on Sleeper, you've got Zay Jones, KJ Osborne, Jefferson, AJ Brown, Russell Gage, and Noah Brown. Out of the top 6 receivers, 2 are rostered in that league. That's the kind of week it was for wide receivers in fantasy football.
Also, Caden, I don't blame you in the size. I would also be mad if A-Rod can't outscore Matt Gay. But I would believe in A-Rod. You got time. You'll be A-okay. Yeah, KJ Osborne and Zay Jones. Is KJ Osborne the real deal?
He's been good the last 2 years. It's just he's in a very the offense itself isn't catered to KJ Osborne. He's the wide receiver 3 on a team that has 4 options ahead of him. It's not his fault he doesn't produce weekly, but he's talented enough to be a fantasy impact kind of guy.
In a division where it's been the Titans for a couple of years now, and Mike Vrabel has put together a team with duct tape and paper clips, now that is falling at the seams. The Colts are without a paddle. The Texans have a long way to go. Is this the Jags division for the next few years now?
We got to see how it ages. I think Lawrence is the real deal without a doubt. I'm not sure how the rest of it's going to age. The defense has improved. Trayvon Walker was a great first overall pick. Maybe not in terms of production this season, but he's been great for what they need and what they want. Their defense is improving and it's young. The offensive line is something I hope they invest in a bit more. But weapons-wise, this is the best Jaguars unit we've seen in the last couple of years, and they're only getting better, adding Calvin Ridley after this offseason. So on paper, yeah, they're going to be in line for a shot to win that division over the next 5 years. We got to see what the Colts do this offseason to address a lot of their issues, and we have to take a deep look into the mirror and figure out what's going to happen in Tennessee because they're at a crossroads. Derrick Henry can't be the guy for them anymore. They need weapons on the outside to make some form of diversity into the offense.
I feel like A.J. Brown would fit that offense really well.
Yeah, or maybe a guy like Corey Davis too,
Corey Davis. It's
There was this
interesting.
one guy that I was reading about on New England's bench, Jonnu Smith. He had a couple good years there.
You want Will Levis with your top 10 pick. I don't hate it. He's going to be
Hey,
the court.
man, whatever your heart needs, point blank.
I mean, the Colts need a quarterback, right? They have Jonathan Taylor, who's out for the rest of the season, unfortunately. But Michael Pittman was supposed to be, this guy this year, and he gets Matt Ryan, who literally has had the worst career year of his life. He's awful. He's a potential Hall of Famer, and he is literally falling apart in front of our eyes. And granted, he's probably playing behind one of the worst O lines he's ever seen, along with a running back that completely regressed from running back one. But their defense is still really good. I don't know. It's tough. Am I cutting in and out?
Tad bit.
Damn it.
I think for fantasy purposes, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. The AFC South is up in the air until it's not. Essentially, every year it's been up in the air, and then Mike Vrabel's like, "Hey, dude, let's weigh things down." But yeah, the AFC South is. I am pissed that my team's not in that division at this point. That's
Right.
all I will say.
We're out here in the NFC East just fighting for our lives. Caden, I will say, I did put out a short a week ago about Jerick McKinnon. I told people not to bench him. McKinnon is the guy to have now, and there's multiple RB duos that we can talk about tonight, and this is one of them. Isaiah Pacheco fumbled on Sunday, so he's starting to lose favor. His workload's going down. He doesn't get the passing. He does not get the passing
The
load
passing
at
reps.
all.
Yeah, he's not featured in the passing game.
Jerick McKinnon can win you a championship this year.
That all depends on if he's going to actually finish the season.
Fair, but
That's the biggest thing.
KC gets Seattle next week, and as long as the Bills keep winning, as long as the Bills keep winning, the Chiefs also have to keep winning. They can't cruise right now. They're fighting for a 1 seed. Brady versus Arizona or Cousins versus New York? I would take Cousins.
Yeah, Cousins is playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think the Minnesota Vikings have a real chance to even shoot for a 1 seed this year. If the Eagles don't have Jalen Hurts this week and they somehow lose, I think Minnesota could put their foot on the gas and possibly pull a 1 seed out. Because Minnesota with the 1 seed is far more dangerous than Minnesota with the 2 seed. So they should be doing everything in their power to try and lock that 1 seed up if they are given the opportunity.
Well, and with the Jalen Hurts news, if the
anything could happen.
Drop two games, there's going to be a problem.
Yeah, and then I do like Brady this week. I think it's kind of a coin flip. Arizona's defense sucks. We saw it this week with Brett Rypien and the Broncos putting up probably their highest point total of the season. I like Brady against the Cardinals personally. Brady has his full slew of weapons. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Rachaad White is still putting up numbers in that offense, and the Bucs defense is going to allow some points. So I'm assuming it's going to be the Bucs are going to have to put up like 20 points to beat the Cardinals this coming week, I'm assuming. So I don't know. Kirk has some down games week in and week to week. Kirk Cousins can have a down game. Obviously, he had his best game of the season this previous week, but you can't bank upon 40 from Kirk week in and week out. It's the same idea with McKinnon. You have to temper expectations. Kirk is averaging, let's see, per game. What are you doing per game? So average, you're looking at about like 18 to 20 from Kirk on a week-to-week basis. And while it's been really nice starting him over the last 5 weeks, against his last NFC East opponent, he put up 3 points, and that was against Dallas. Am I saying the New York Giants defense is as good as Dallas? No, but I'm saying the New York Giants defense is pretty good. I would even say it's better than Detroit.
It definitely has gotten
arguably
healthier.
It's arguably better than Indy's at times. Stephon Gilmore is one of the best corners in football right now in terms of how he's played this season. But with the additions the Giants have made over the last couple of years, Kayvon Thibodeau is playing with the whole world in his hands. He's been an absolute monster off the edge. I'm going to start Kirk because I can't start anybody else over him. Kyler's down for the year. But I think Brady's really compelling coming into next week because he put up 24 against Cincy in a game that really didn't matter for the Bucs because they just got blown out. So
out of nowhere, too.
The score doesn't matter to me for a Brady game. Brady's more likely to get you the consistent 20, in my opinion, than Kirk is. So the floor, I'm leaning Brady. Ceiling, Kirk, just because Justin Jefferson's on a different planet right now.
Yeah.
But I think Brady's good for 17 to 20 on a weekly basis.
Brady put up 25 this week, 312 and 3 touchdowns. I think he threw 2 picks.
Yep.
I believe. Sleeper doesn't show me the picks right off the bat, but they turned the ball over a lot in that second half. That was atrocious. Yeah, I think you're right. It's a coin flip. Arizona's really bad. They're probably going to be turning the ball over a lot anyways with Colt McCoy or Trace McSorley for that matter. So I guess for the floor, for sure, is Brady. And if you truly, really need the upside, I would say Kirk is the risky play. But I don't think either or is the wrong play.
Well, so Sleeper's projecting Kirk to finish with 22.2 next week. Brady's projected to finish with 21.3. It's up to you. I'm starting Kirk everywhere I have him. I'm also starting Brady in places where I have him. I don't think either matchup is a net negative.
Sounds good, Dale. Good luck this week. Perfect. Get that championship. We're right there with you. Me and Devin have a team together that's going to semis. I have a team that's going to the semis, but I only got 2 teams this year. God, I had a down year. Good Lord.
Shoot, I've got World Playoffs starting a couple of my leagues next week. I'm in the playoffs in a majority of leagues currently, if I'm correct. Man,
you're having a much better year than I.
You're carrying our deep league though, so that's what matters.
That's the one that matters the most.
God, I feel bad for Team Steel. 10-4 in the regular season to get bounced by 6-8.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it? The pickup of Jerick McKinnon, dude. I'm telling you, that dude might win you a league. Let's see what his matchup looks. He's playing Seattle. I feel like he could score a ton against Seattle because he just gets a bunch of checkdowns from Mahomes.
He had
when Mahomes
8 receptions.
That's what I'm saying.
He had 8 points off of passes. It depends on the game script.
Carries.
It depends on if Kansas City is able to dominate Seattle in a way that they weren't able to dominate Houston. I think McKinnon's load shrinks a little bit because Pacheco is going to get carries over McKinnon. I know he fumbled, but I don't see Pacheco getting phased out. McKinnon's very interesting. You just can't expect 30 points per week. I'm expecting him to finish with 10 to 15 next week. And who knows if he rifles off 30 again, then I'm just going to shut the fuck up. But at some point, the bottom falls out is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, I get it for sure. This is a game where both teams are going to be fighting for their lives. Like KC wants a number 1 seed. It's obvious. Who doesn't? And Seattle's fighting for their playoff lives. They're 7-7 at this point. They really need to win a game. Geno has been very good, which kind of leads me to my next point. Tyler Lockett's out for the season, most likely. He has a broken bone in his hand.
Yep.
How do you feel moving forward the rest of the way with Marquise Goodwin?
Let's see.
Because here's why I ask. You and I get a lot of questions during the week, and a lot of it is like desperation plays. Like, am I playing, Tutu Atwell or Randall Cobb? Am I playing Rex Burkhead or this person? Like, I think Marquise Goodwin is a good guy to go out there and go get. I mean, I'll look at his availability on Sleeper.
He just put up 20 plus against Carolina 2 weeks ago
as the number 3.
Yeah,
or he was the number 2 then.
Yeah. Personally, there are worse options this deep into the season to be looking at. Goodwin is somebody that I think if he's not rostered in your league, you take a flyer for the fantasy playoffs. Because DK Metcalf is incredibly talented, but DK Metcalf is a vertical type receiver. He's not going to be operating a lot through the middle of the field on crossing patterns. Goodwin's speedy. He's a smaller frame dude. He's going to fill into that Lockett role, which I would assume would be pretty nicely. So in a pinch, Marquise Goodwin could be a guy that you could start in the playoffs. I wouldn't hope that he would be your wide receiver too, but if he's your flex, I'm feeling pretty comfortable with a Marquise Goodwin in that slot.
Am I crazy to start him over DeAndre Hopkins?
Depends on who's starting at quarterback. Trace McSorley, I don't think I can start a single person in the state of Arizona.
Yeah. I feel okay about Colt McCoy because I know Tom Brady, the Bucks got torn up by Burrow, and I'm not going to compare Colt McCoy to Joe Burrow. Don't get me wrong, but there's holes in that secondary, and I think Colt McCoy is good enough to get DeAndre a touchdown. But I think you're right. If Trace McSorley is starting, then I kind of have to at that point. It's just I don't know. It's DeAndre Hopkins, man, but at the same time, it's Trace McSorley, and I'm starting Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm starting Chris Godwin. Like, those are my two wide receivers. So I just need a flex at this point is kind of where I'm at outside of a running back. But that's a whole nother topic. So, I mean, Marquise Goodwin is rostered in 6% of sleeper leagues. You can easily, I'm taking a flyer on him right now in the deep league. Doing it right now.
Fair enough.
Who's getting the boot? Foster Moreau, you're out of here. There you go. It's just that easy. Take a flyer on Marquise Goodwin this weekend. Take a flyer. I mean, Seattle's offense is pretty good. It'll be interesting to see him for sure. What about Oh, okay, that's why it's not popping up. I was very confused why my stats were popping up. What about George Kittle? 25 points, tight end one this week. Is this what it's going to be like without Debo?
Yeah, this is what it should be like without Debo. This is an offense that is predicated upon putting players into space and using schemes to fake out the defense. Kyle Shanahan's very creative. There's a reason why Mike McDaniel's offense works in Miami. It's a lot of zone concepts. It's a lot of play action. It's a lot of getting guys open in space, crossing patterns, whatever it may be. It forces a lot of zone coverage, and George Kittle destroys zone coverage. Hell, it's even hard to guard this guy in man. One thing that makes Kittle inherently special is his blocking prowess, which really makes him dangerous in the play action pass because he's able to convince you that he is going to be blocking a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can expect 25 per week, but he's going to be over 10 points a week for the rest of the playoffs, especially if Debo's not back, because as good as Brandon Ayuk is, George Kittle is a great talent, and he's playing with a rookie quarterback. I don't care how talented Brock Purdy is. Young quarterbacks love to target tight ends. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of a proven factoid at this point in the fantasy football lexicon. So I think Kittle is safe on his perch. Right behind Travis Kelce is a tight end that you're going to have to start on a weekly basis. CJ Uzomah this week had a big week. He had 18.
Please do not start CJ Uzomah this week. Don't do it. I'll pivot to this. What's gonna happen to Trey Lance? He's gonna be the starter week 1 for the Niners.
It's all dependent upon where the Niners finish this season. If they wind up in the NFC title game and lose again, it's going to be an open competition that's leaning Trey Lance. If Brock Purdy wins the Super Bowl his rookie year, there's going to be a competition, and it's going to be a
problem.
And it's going to be Trey Lance's job to lose. Do not get me wrong. Trey Lance was drafted 3rd overall. And I understood it's not a Bledsoe Brady. Actually, you know what? Purdy could have a realistic shot of beating him out. This isn't a Drew Bledsoe Brady situation because like Bledsoe was an actual all-pro talent, like Pro Bowl type guy. Trey Lance has done. I'll just look it up on Pro Football Reference.
It would blow my mind, though. I mean, I guess
they gave up a lot to move up and get Lance.
Exactly.
They would have to get
He's going to get benched for the last pick in the draft.
They would move Lance if that were the case. That you cannot keep Trey Lance as a bench piece going into his 3rd year on a rookie contract. You've got 2 more years to see what he is before you have to pay him. But
AJ Dillon with his 2nd touchdown of the day.
He's 2-2 with 5 touchdowns and 3 picks on his career. You know nothing about him as a prospect. He does not have a lot of college film. All you know is his build and his intangibles. So Lance has to win the job in the offseason. He really doesn't have much time to figure it out per se, especially if Purdy keeps winning.
But can the Niners afford to get rid of Jimmy? You know teams are going to call about Jimmy. It's not particularly close that Jimmy should be a Jet next season.
Jimmy's gone. I don't see how Jimmy Garoppolo is brought back for the Niners next year. He's hurt. The biggest story with Jimmy Garoppolo as a Niner is injuries and just missed opportunities. Like if Jimmy was this much better, they're Super Bowl champions. If Jimmy was this much better, they're playing in the Super Bowl. And it's not saying Jimmy is bad. That is not at all what I'm saying. But the point is, they've always needed a bit more from Jimmy Garoppolo. The defenses have been there. The special teams have been there. The pass catchers have been there. The rushing attack has been there. It's been Jimmy and Kyle. Those are the two kind of red flags for this organization. And moving forward, trying to figure out just what's going to help them figure this out. It's that Jimmy is not the answer. And bringing him back on any form of a contract does not make any sense. He's going to be too expensive, and it's just going to tug at this locker room once again because they like him. The players love Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I mean, it's really as simple as that. But he's got to go. So I think he has to go to a contender next year. Some contender has to call him and get him. It's not another rushing TD. Well, what's Rodgers at now? I think he threw for like 50 yards on that. So you should be inching closer as long as the Rams get stopped here. But yeah, another AJ Dillon touchdown. He's going off on people's benches all around for sure. God, he's going to make me pick him up, isn't he? I just don't like these committees, man. Like, what is it? I just don't. You're down 3. I'm feeling okay still. I'm feeling okay. The
defense just has to show up.
Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, Zeke, and Pollard. All these guys. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Kenyon Drake, Devin Singletary, and James Cook. Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift. Like, this is terrible for fantasy. The Swift saga gets more confusing. Like, what is going on there? Like, what DeAndre Swift got 8 carries for 52 yards. Jamal Williams got 13 carries for 33 yards. He got stuffed at the goal line. DeAndre Swift got 5 catches for 23 yards, and Jamal Williams didn't get any targets. So are we back to DeAndre Swift being the guy to have? Like, I mean,
no, we're not back to anything.
We benched him in most of our questions last weekend.
I only started him in leagues where I desperately needed him. And even if you started him, he got you 12 points. Congratulations. It's a solid finish. It's what you expect weekly from a guy like Swift, if not more. Running back in the NFL running back's the new tight end, my friend. You're just throwing people.
Don't say that.
You're just throwing people out. Like, obviously, outside of your top guys, like Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, and Stevenson are all top 5 finishes this week. Well, Saquon's number 7 on the week, but James Conner had a good game. Mostert had a great game. Marlon Mack came back from the dead and put up 16 points this week. Like, running back is as murky as it's ever been.
Putting up 21. Tyler Algier put up 23.
Yeah, exactly. If you're starting players in committees, you have to look at the trends, you have to look at snap percentages, and you have to be okay with 10-point finishes. Touchdowns are a mother to get at the running back position, and there are certain players that are better at getting those touchdowns. But to bank weekly on a touchdown from a guy, you have to have an upper echelon star at the position, a magnet of sorts. That is why people draft Christian McCaffrey with all of his injuries in the top 3 year after year. It's why Derrick Henry, with all of his miles, is still being drafted. And Saquon, no one's given up on him, or whoever did give up on him. Congratulations. You lost out. I got Saquon in the 2nd in numerous leagues this year. 3rd or 4th in certain. I got him in the 3rd in a couple of leagues. Like, Saquon Barkley was the best value running back this year, and nobody talked about it. Well, people talked about it, but I'm being a little dramatic. But Saquon has been one of the best values of the season outside of a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, who was just a split backfield. You pick the talent, and whenever the talent fails, you study the math. Players are always due for positive or negative regression, but you always have to kind of, whether it's a gut feel type thing or you're looking towards the outlook of how they fit the squad. Because Stevenson, the writing was on the wall. He's a better pass catcher. Damian Harris is in a contract year. He's younger. He's cheaper. He's better for the team. It worked out. DeAndre Swift, younger, cheaper, overall probably better for the team. Didn't work out. Jamal Williams has been the most efficient touchdown scorer at the running back position. A lot of James Conner last year, never were like, oh my God, Chase Edmonds. Sometimes shit just happened. But sometimes we're rewarded with a guy like James Conner getting a full backfield to himself. Edmonds leaves. Benjamin gets released. Like, certain things happen and players' outlooks look better. There's other times when the backfield or committee kind of just evens out. Zeke and Tony Pollard is the perfect example of this phenomenon happening. Everybody was so anti-Zeke, pro-Pollard that at a certain point, the names just didn't matter. You could start either of them and expect 12 to 15 points a week with upside of like 20-plus finishes if they're scoring touchdowns. Like this week, Zeke and Pollard running back 14 and 16. There's no
Zeke scored
picking
a touchdown 5 straight games.
Exactly. It's understanding the role and the use of the players for the teams. So, I don't know.
Speaking of Saquon Barkley, though, he's going to get tagged, right?
He's
still a Giant next season?
Yeah.
He's really the only guy left on that offense, so his value probably still stays the same. Like, we've seen that. What is he on the year? He is RB what? Let me see here. Saquon Barkley. I don't think he's missed any games this season. Nope, hasn't missed any games. RB5 in PPR and RB6 in standard. So top 5 back when he's healthy. We've kind of known that for a long time. It's kind of just you've been stuck with him getting hurt a lot. But now you kind of see, I mean, granted, he's had to be the offense this season because he's with Daniel Jones and Kenny Golladay. Well, to be fair, nobody's with Kenny Golladay. But as this, I don't know, Giants offense gets better, Brian Dable has obviously shown the wherewithal to coach a pretty bad football team into a playoff contender. Now imagine if they had healthy receivers and a competent quarterback in like Saquon value feels like it's going up for me as long as the Giants can continue to develop and draft well.
No,
eight targets against Washington, 5 catches, 33 yards, 18 carries, 87 yards and a touchdown, 23 fantasy points.
Yeah, no, Saquon for all the lumps you'll get, he's only had 2 finishes below 10 points on the year. The dude is an absolute stud. He's probably one of the biggest reasons why the franchise tag is going to exist this offseason. Josh Jacobs is another name that we're going to look at and see that, the franchise tag matters. But sweet. So speaking of things that matter, Colts Vikings. Want to start us off on that, Austin?
The Colts and the Vikings, good Lord. We told a lot of people to start Kirk Cousins over on Saturday, and boy, did it look bad for us. But Kirk Cousins, let me tell you, he finished as quarterback 2 on the week with 34 fantasy points, 460 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I've been saying for a really long time that Kirk, I said it all last year, Kirk gets a lot of flack for really no reason. He has arguably the best wide receiver in the game, especially at his age, on his team. You can't take the Packers anymore. I feel that for sure.
No, Colts Vikings was an absolute shit show. Everybody victory lapped whenever Kirk Cousins in the 1 p.m. slot decided to take a fat shit. The thing was, Jeff Saturday said, sounds nice, and decided to defecate in his pants on national television. This Colts offense is arguably one of the worst in football right now. Just in terms of efficiency. It sucks whenever you lose your best player on the first player in the game. I don't know how else to put it. I'm just gonna take a quick look at the box score. Matt Ryan, 19 for 33, 182 and a touchdown. he did all he could to a certain extent. The dude's like 38. He's thrown how many passes in his career? We're all
A
human.
lot.
Zach Moss getting 24 carries in the year of our Lord 2022 is something I did not have on my bingo card, Austin. Deion Jackson, 13 for 55, 4.2 yards per carry. Hey, that's pretty good. Michael Pittman Jr., 10 catches for 60 yards. Halfway decent. But the problem is
Michael Pittman had 10 catches?
10 receptions. Michael Pittman's floor is relatively
Wow.
high because of how much he gets fed in this offense. The problem is outside of Michael Pittman, your next highest reception guy was Kylan Granson along with Ashton Doolin, with Paris Campbell getting 2. Jelani Woods, Jonathan Taylor, Deion Jackson, and the one. So Matt Ryan had 19 completions. Over half of those went to Michael Pittman Jr. That is problematic.
That's wild.
This defense overachieved in the first half. They were up 33-0 after the first half. They had 2 defensive touchdowns. That is not a lead anyone should feel safe with, especially a team like the Colts that have been so start-stop offensively. And the Vikings did not show up in the first half. The Vikings were god-awful. But one thing about the Vikings is they're usually god-awful for portions of games. But whenever they're right, they're one of the hardest offenses in football to stop.
The Kevin O'Connell effect. What's his name?
Kevin O'Connell, yeah.
It is kind of O'Connell. This dude, I mean, granted, to set a bar very low, had to succeed Mike Zimmer. But I said it all last season. There was no reason for Kirk to get all the flack that he gets. The dude performs, and he has one of the more talented offenses on his team, especially now that he has DJ Hawkinson.
You know what's crazy about this game? For a team that put up 33 points in the first half, this Colts team won the time of possession by 3 minutes on the game. Minnesota didn't score a point in the first half. Minnesota's offense couldn't stay on the field for a majority of that first half. They had more first down. They had 12 more first downs, the Vikings did. They were similar in third down. They both didn't convert on fourth down. The Vikings ran more total plays. They allowed more sacks. They punted the ball one last time, and the Colts were more penalized. I'll give them that. And the Vikings had more turnovers. This was a game the Colts lost blatantly. Yes, the Vikings should be commended for winning this game. The Vikings should be commended in general. Kirk Cousins won me multiple fantasy matchups. This is the Kirk Cousins everybody has wanted in Minnesota, and I think the right coaches come along to fully unlock what Kirk Cousins can do. He was great in those years in Washington for a while there. I forget who the head coach was whenever he was their quarterback of the time, but Kirk is a very competent NFL quarterback. And Kevin O'Connell has equipped him with an offense and a scheme that highlights his skills. And now it's just a matter of him getting the ball to the weapons, whether it's Dalvin Cook, CJ Ham, KJ Osborne, Justin Jefferson, even Adam Thielen. Like, if you want to look at the direct difference between the Colts and the Vikings, just look at the receiving chart. For one, Matt Ryan completed 19 passes. Kirk completed 34. But the distribution, 10 to KJ Osborne, 12 to Justin Jefferson, 4 to Dalvin Cook, 3 to Thielen, 3 to
Osborne
Hawkinson.
and Justin Jefferson both got 16 targets. That
Yeah.
is insane.
Yeah, exactly. And yes, the Colts lost Jonathan Taylor, which lost a lot of people matchups. It's the way of the game. Injuries happen and it sucks.
Yeah.
But the Colts were up 33 points and they gave up 39. To put up 3 points in the second half after scoring 16 minimum the first 2 quarters is something I've only seen a team like the Chargers do this season. And luckily for me, it has not been to this high of a degree. But clearly, the Colts saw something they liked in the first half, tried to capitalize upon it whenever Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings made proper adjustments, and they were not able to adjust accordingly to whatever Minnesota changed.
And at this point, too, with Jonathan Taylor, you kind of look at the distribution after he left with Zach Moss and Deion Jackson. Zach Moss got the bulk of the carries. He got 24 for 81, and Deion Jackson got 13 for 55. And while Deion Jackson is most likely to be on the passing downs, I would not attempt, although if Joey Bosa isn't back on Monday Night Football for the Chargers, then it feels like a smash matchup. Oh, is that a passing touchdown for Aaron Rodgers? Hold your
Never
breath,
heard of him.
Caden. Hold your breath. I think that's a passing touchdown to Aaron Jones.
I told you, man. Aaron Jones is that guy. We love
You're
Aaron
good to go.
Jones.
Matt Gay can probably hit would have to hit like a 50-yard now, and even then, Rodgers has more points. You're good. You're good, Caden.
We made it.
Good to go. We out here. Stress free Monday night. That's what we like.
That's the thing for
But
me. I have no matchups that are actually going through to tonight, which makes me very happy.
I do. Stress-free Monday Night Football is the greatest feeling ever. We won our deep league matchup. I'm on a bye in my other league. I didn't have to worry about anything. It felt so good. But yeah, for Zach Moss, Deion Jackson, even if Joey Bosa was out, I feel like I really can't start him. This Colts offense is just so bad. I feel like the Chargers can go up so quickly that it'll turn into a negative game script, and it's like, well, Zach Moss is not going to get any carries. So honestly, I would not recommend taking either of those guys this week. Speaking of your Chargers, because a lot of people asked about Mike Williams, and you did not blow out the Titans like we expected. So what happened?
Well, so I saw bits and pieces of this game through the wall of the restaurant I was at, because the TV they had the Chargers game. I could see the bottom right-hand corner of the screen for a majority of it. Let's see. Chargers, Titans. It's called Mike Vrabel is a very, very intimidating man. And Justin Herbert turned the ball over twice. Granted, one of them, it's one of the best plays defensively you'll see this year with the corner or the safety from Tennessee jumping out of bounds and batting it back to his corner.
That was wild.
For the interception. That was one of the more athletic plays we've seen this year. The Chargers let the defense bang for a majority of this game. Eckler went down early and he was hurt, but the rushing attack came through with Joshua Kelly and Eckler punching in touchdowns. The defense gave this team a chance. It sucks whenever you couldn't find the end zone offensively over through the air, but this is a Tennessee defense that usually plays up to their competition. They're not a terrible defense. They've dealt with injuries, obviously, but Jeffrey Simmons is one of the scariest defensive tackles in football. And their secondary, while it's not the best in the league, is far from the worst. Part of it could be the Lombardi effect. It was a low-scoring game. It was kind of felt like the Cardinals game with less of an upside, where it was like whoever's getting the ball last is probably going to be the team that wins, but not in the way of like, no, you, in terms of like, I want to lose. This was a game where Staley and the Chargers just kind of gutted it out. This game was more about the Chargers winning than Tennessee losing, essentially.
Yeah.
They both
it makes
had
me feel better
plans.
about starting the Titans defense against Houston next week now.
Yeah, they both had game plans. They both exercised those game plans, and they both made incredible adjustments.
Depends on who you're starting at tight end, but I don't hate Darren Waller. He's been the focus of the offense before. He's a good tight end. He just hasn't been able to stay healthy all year long. He put up a touchdown this week. Let's see. He finished tight end. Tight end 8 this week. 3 receptions, 48 yards, and a touchdown. That's not too bad. So it really depends who you're starting week to week right now at tight end. But if Waller's on your waiver wire, I would take a swing.
My thing with Waller is I added him weeks ago. Whenever he was put, my thing that I like to do is I wait for people to get impatient. And if they drop the dude and he's still on the IR, most guys, if they're talented, I'm going to snag them and put them in my IR spot immediately. So I've been rostering Waller for what feels like the last 4 or 5 weeks. It depends on who you're starting every week. If his name's not Travis Kelce, there's an argument to pick up Darren Waller, especially if you're putting him in your backup tight end slot, which not every roster allows for that in terms of like the depth you want at the skill positions. Yeah. Darren Waller, if he's going to be healthy and the hamstrings behind him, he's going to be a factor in the fantasy playoffs. Mm-hmm. He's not going to be prime Darren Waller, but if you can get 10 points out of a tight end the next 3 weeks and it's guaranteed, I'm taking it. I don't care what the name is behind it.
I'm going to get to the Nick Chubb one too, but this one's easy. Yes. The Jaguars are actually in control of their own destiny. They already beat the Titans. If they win out, beating Tennessee week 18, they would sweep the season series. and they would be division champions. The Jaguars are in complete control of their own destiny. If they win out, they're champions. As easy as that. And I think they can do it. What happened to Nick Chubb? The offense has been weird behind Deshaun Watson. It's always been weird behind Jacoby Brissett. I get he's a non-factor, but he's Nick Chubb. You're not going to sit him. He's playing the Saints this week that got beat up by Tyler Algier.
Nick Chubb is the perfect example of better football player than fantasy asset. He had a great day on the ground. He took 21 carries for 100 yards, essentially 4.7 per carry. This has a career 5 yards per carry.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Chubb is playing incredibly well, getting a 50-50 split.
Has he?
I don't know if that's accurate. Let's see.
Let's see what happened last game. No, Hunt only got 4 carries. Deshaun got 6, but those aren't really run plays.
Well, if we're looking at snaps, that's the big thing. You want to look at snap
percentage is different, yeah.
70% snap percentage. Nick Chubb is the guy.
He's just like the receiving back.
So, for you, Caden, the biggest problem with Nick Chubb, and the reason why I have avoided drafting Nick Chubb in plenty of leagues over the last couple of years is because he is the best running back for standard formats, aside from a Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb are standard monsters. Even James Conner a little bit. The guys that aren't going to be getting 2 to 3 receptions a week for yards. The guys that are the bell cows, 20-plus carries. Dameon Pierce could age into a standard darling. But most leagues are PPR. And I'd much rather have Austin Eckler's 15 to 20 touches that include 6 points by receptions. Because if you're not getting points per carry, points per reception outweigh whatever touch ceiling you're going to see out of a running back because they're facing stacked boxes. They're having to manufacture a lot of their own points. Traded Conner for Chubb at the deadline. That's good value on what James Conner's been this year. I think Conner moving forward maybe has a bit more upside, but Chubb's the better player easily in my eyes.
I'm surprised somebody gave up Chubb for just that. That surprises me.
Conner at his ceiling is an absolute touchdown monster.
True.
And Chubb can break off any play for 80 yards, but it's just with how the Browns offense is schemed currently and how honest they haven't kept defenses, Nick Chubb's facing stacked boxes. It's tough.
Do you think Jerry Jeudy only has value as long as Cortland Sutton has been out? He had another good week.
7 for 76, yeah.
You have Henry against the I scouted the seeding in my work league, and my the 2 seed currently now, I was hoping he would get 2 or 3 because I wanted him at the bottom of the bracket because in the semifinals he has Derrick Henry against the Texans, and we're a standard league, so that's easily 20-something points for Derrick Henry. So I said, you stay on your bottom side of the bracket. I don't want to face you this week.
That's 30-something, to be honest.
It's
week 200
yards, 2 touchdowns.
Put up 36 points against Houston last time, and I don't think it's going to be I expect 20 to 30. He's not putting up.
It's why I'm going to play the Tennessee defense, because Tennessee just gets to run the ball all day and control the clock.
Yeah, Henry's going to be an absolute force. Number 2 running back in standard, Derrick Henry. Don't forget that name. And then let's see what Chubb is actually ranked. Oh, probably Austin Eckler. I don't think so, actually. Chubb is 4th in standard. Yeah, standard. Let me figure this out. Scores Hall of Fame weekend. Give me full season. You won't give me full season.
It's Josh Jacobs standard. He's number 1.
Yeah, Jacobs has been insane.
That tracks. That completely tracks.
100%.
110% tracks. Not particularly close. And Jacobs is number 2 in PPR. Yeah, Derrick Henry, I think it's even the last 5 outings against the Texans. It's 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Texans can't stop him even when they know it's coming. Stack the box, it doesn't matter.
You know who the 3 running back in standard is?
Standard? It's none of mine. So
it's surprising.
Hit me with it.
Christian McCaffrey.
He's been getting a lot of yards. He's been really good in San Francisco.
Yeah. That I'm impressed with him in terms of a standard finish being that's actually really surprising.
This is balls that I don't have. I couldn't do it. My
Hey,
pride
you
wouldn't
know
let
what?
me.
Might as well.
Play
Fantasy
chess, not
football,
checkers.
where the names don't matter and the points are the only thing that matters. Fantasy football.
But so, back to my point. Jerry Judy. Huh? 14 points, 8 targets, 7 receptions, 76 yards. 33 last week against KC. He gets the Rams and KC the last 2 weeks of the season for semifinals and finals. If Cortland Sutton continues to be out, how are we
No,
feeling? No?
I'm not
Okay.
I'm not starting Jerry Judy over guys that I'm sure people have rostered. Jerry Judy's a guy that we were drafting in the 5th or 6th round this year. Jerry Judy's been an overall bust. He sucked, for lack of better terms. Like, I get
Hey,
he's
Tyler
had
Higbee
a
touchdown.
couple. Oh wow, I needed that about 6 weeks ago. Let's see. Players, Jerry Judy, come on down.
You're the next contestant on Get Destroyed.
Jerry Judy, he's number 35 in PPR, 25 in standard. Started off the year hot, 20 points. That was great. 2 points, 3 points, 15, 8, 8, 16, 18, 0, 10, 33, 14. I'm a little harsh on Jerry Judy. Russell Wilson's been the bigger disappointment in the offense. For where he was drafted, you expected a top 15 to top 20 player at his position. He's more likely to finish top 30, top 25. He's not giving you that return on investment.
Yeah.
Granted, Sutton's been worse, but it's sour grapes, whichever way you look at it. If you trust the matchup, I guess it's cool. I don't trust the quarterback. I barely trust the receiver. And if you don't have better options at that point, you probably aren't in the playoffs.
We appreciate you being here, Caden. We
Thank you
talking
for joining
with
in.
everyone. It's funny, we actually kind of just changed our format to be more conversational. So when people jump in, we can just talk with them super easily. So, and Matt Gay missed the extra point. So now you're even less stressed. It just gets better. It's almost the holidays. Was it dumb taking MT at
Michael
the 12th too?
Thomas.
No, I don't think that's dumb at all.
I don't think Michael Thomas is done by any stretch of the imagination. I think he might be done as a Saint. I think the Saints might have to do some cleaning.
The thing with Michael Thomas, and like I would assume you were talking about this year, Lincoln. A lot of people were in on him. I drafted him in a lot of redraft leagues. I thought he was he was actually pretty good when he was playing. He got some touchdowns with Jameis Winston. He was putting up some decent numbers.
And especially in Dynasty, you're not going to find many guys that late that are young enough to have the upside to pay off in a way. And you're not going to find the veterans that are young enough. Because the thing about Michael Thomas is he's on a discount because he's been hurt. The thing about Michael Thomas, it's the same merriment and wonder that's kind of baked into Deshaun Watson at this point. Michael Thomas has been the best wide receiver on the planet for at least a full season of his career. And you could argue for like 2 or 3 years, he was right up there in the top 5, top 3 context. His body has betrayed him. If the body gets right and he's in the right situation, I think he's going to put up numbers. Drafting him for next year in a dynasty league. And I think Michael Thomas finds a different team. If we're looking at the Saints right now.
If he's in a good spot in redraft, I'll take him again.
Well, he's talking about dynasty.
But even in dynasty, I'll take him.
Yeah, no, Michael Thomas, he's under contract because the Saints are going to have to
Caden is going to jump to dynasty. You and I have been talking about jumping to dynasty, starting up a dynasty league. I love dynasty. I've just never played it myself. Like, the format is super fun. It's super fun to talk about and get into because you really kind of look at the projection of players, not just in the now, but in the much later too. Like, it really gets you thinking about these guys, like Trevor Lawrence.
Because Michael Thomas is literally he's 20. He's 29. He's going to go into his age 30 season. He makes $15 million on the base salary, $18 million the next year. It's a tradable contract, and the Saints are going to have to consolidate money. They are very they're very maxed out in terms of who they can pay and what they can pay. So I think Michael Thomas is not a terrible pickup in any version of a league you're in, whether it's dynasty, whether it's redraft, you name it, keeper. I love Michael Thomas this year. I just think because even whenever he was playing, he was a stud. Like whenever he was on the field, he was producing in a way that I expected him to produce. So buy the dip, just buy the dip. It worked for me this year. Guys get hurt. It's the nature of football. That's why I will happily take Brees Hall at a discount, which will not exist because he's that good. But
Bellinger, Herbert, or Love?
Jordan Love, it depends on the quarterbacks you have. I think Jordan Love is the best bet. You'll find you could find a Bellinger in the rookie draft if you're lucky, is what I'm saying in a dynasty league. I think Bellinger is cool for what he's doing for the Giants. I'm not gonna stake. If you have a shot to draft Jordan Love, I would take him as a backup in a dynasty league. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to play in Green Bay for the next year or two, I'm assuming. He signed the deal, yes, it's the extension. He could get traded if the Packers fully implode. I think Jordan Love is going to find somewhere to start, is the biggest thing. And in a dynasty league, you're holding on to guys for years and years and years. I think Jordan Love has the best opportunity to be a fantasy difference maker. Because Khalil Herbert's cool. David Montgomery might actually sign somewhere else this offseason for all we know.
That's the biggest thing for me.
Justin Fields is the rushing attack. You can't bank on either two of those backs week to week.
Yeah. So and at this point, I would feel like I think we talked yesterday, Lincoln. You already have Kelsey. So Kelsey is probably your tight end until he retires at this point. So I think you're safe there. So I would take Jordan Love.
And he has Josh Allen and Justin Fields, if I'm correct, as his two quarterbacks, AJ Brown, then Travis Kelsey, or Kelsey, then AJ Brown. So I don't know how the rest of your draft went, but in terms of options at backup quarterback at that round value, I think Love is great. Khalil Herbert could come in next year and command a bunch of carries because David Montgomery walks, but Khalil Herbert is not a guy that is not irreplaceable. He will be like a Dameon Pierce was this year. There's plenty of backs that have decent fantasy outputs, but will be replaced as soon as they find someone better.
Appreciate it. Tell my fiance that. I do not have that. I do not have the best of memory, but I just happen to remember some of them. How many more years do we get a prime Kelsey? 4 or 5.
He's at least 33 right now, if I'm correct. Barring injury, Travis Kelsey should keep it up with Mahomes at quarterback for the next 3 years minimum.
This is his age 33 season.
He'll be 34 next year. I think 36 will be the cutoff athletically. It depends on how healthy he stays. If Mahomes can keep him out of duress, he could run it till who knows when.
So would you say his age 36 season is regressing, or he regresses after his age 36 season?
I think he probably starts regressing as soon as he hits 35. Regression's a very interesting term in the context of a Travis Kelsey because even in a regress state, is he still going to be the top tight end in the league? I think it's close. I think it's close. So Allen Fields, Brian Robinson,
has been an Iron Man. Like
Miles Sanders, Hollywood Brown, AJ Brown, Bateman, Kelsey, and now Michael Thomas.
Hollywood will go back up when Kyler gets back, so you're good there.
I like Bateman too. I think Bateman's a good value for his age and just coming off the injury. Brian Robinson's cool. Miles Sanders is going to get paid to play somewhere. If it's not Philadelphia, who knows? He might get tagged. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's a solid draft so far. I think Jordan Love is a really solid backup for those two in terms of just dynasty, in terms of like
the biggest thing is that I think we were talking yesterday, like Allen, Fields, and Kelsey with 2.5 premium will overshadow his opponent sometimes. Like those 3 will win him a week.
Yeah.
Alone. Like it is literally just that simple. Like you've drafted really well here to Devin died.
My camera decided to fall off the face.
Oh, that's hilarious. But yeah, you have a good starting lineup week to week. Miles Sanders is interesting because he doesn't care about anybody's fantasy team, but I don't know if that he thinks that makes him cool or something. But yeah, especially now, yeah, Jordan Love would be a solid pick there. Unless you had to start 2 tight ends, but I feel like he would have mentioned that by now if he had to start 2 tight ends, so it doesn't need Bellinger.
The only league I've ever had to start 2 tight ends is that podcast league we're in, and it's scorched earth every week because tight ends is a crapshoot.
I think we talked about this yesterday. If you're shopping AJ Brown, it is for
running back.
A premium running back and a wide receiver too. I think is what we came to yesterday.
If you could, in my eyes, if you could get, so you're shopping AJ Brown. Let me just look at the receivers on the year. So not trades, not score. I wish I could just see the full season, just points lay. I'm gonna go to ESPN for this. Pardon my French for using the so ESPN Fantasy Football. Thank you. Let's pull up.
You just want points on the
PPR.
Season for running backs?
I'm looking at the receivers first, so I think it'll be easier to find a running back once we've identified the filter. I don't
honestly. I'm looking at the top running backs on the season in PPR. So you got Eckler, McCaffrey, Jacobs, Henry, Barkley, Chubb, Pollard. Wow, Pollard being 7 is wild, but he's had massive weeks, so I can't be too shocked. Honestly, like Ramondre Stevenson and a wide receiver is interesting. I don't know how I feel about Najee Harris. He's really young, or maybe like a Ken Walker, like a really young guy.
Kenneth Walker's going to be too expensive. I think Kenneth Walker's too expensive. Do you know where your pick in the rookie draft is going to be this offseason? Because if you're in line to draft Bijan Robinson, that totally changes what you're going to ask for in the AJ Brown deal.
Well, I think if I remember right, Lincoln said that Bijan Robinson got drafted. So I think this startup
this is a startup. It's
a mixture.
All the incoming players.
Yeah. Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Lincoln, but I could have swore you said Bijan got drafted at like the second round or something. And tight end premium leagues, Kelsey will run away with it. Absolutely run away with tight ends week to week. But Buddy's in keeper league and keep 4 players, 2 flex spots, 1 super flex. He has Cup, Hill, CMC, Fields, Hurts, CD, and Kelsey. Jesus. Good Lord.
Keep 4 players. Okay, 2 flexes, 1 super flex. Cup, Hill, CMC, Fields, Hurts, CD, and Kelsey. You're not going to keep the quarterbacks unless it depends on who everyone else is keeping. It's a super flex league. You have to start 2 quarterbacks yearly. Mm-hmm. I think Fields is a safer keep than Hurts. I wouldn't keep either of them unless you think a lot of people are because if everyone else is keeping quarterbacks, you're going to get your guys back essentially.
Yeah.
You keep 4. Kelsey, Hill, CMC, and then I'm not keeping CD out of this list. It's between Cup. I think the safest way is just Cup, CMC, Hill, and Kelsey. And then you figure out quarterback. Because quarterback, the top tier, yes, there's a separation, but weekly, if you have a competent guy under center, you're getting between 15 to 20. And even the top guys will get you at the most 25, or on their big weeks, maybe 40. But most quarterbacks are around, like, let's look at the quarterback scoring leaders per game. Okay, so let's look at the highest average points per game at quarterback outside of the top 4 finishers. You've got Jalen Hurts at 28.2, Mahomes is at 28.1, 27 for Allen, 25 for Burrow. After that, there's a drop off to 21.2. From Justin Fields to Kirk Cousins, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 guys. Granted, it's 4 because Mike White really doesn't count. But even then, so you have a drop off from the top spot to the 5th spot of like 7 points. But from the 5th spot to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You drop 20 spots to the point where you get another 7-point drop off between quarterbacks' points per game. Am I making sense?
No, yeah. I completely get what you're saying.
So unless you can, so Jalen Hurts is actually compelling to keep. in this case. You could keep a Jalen Hurts over Cup or Hill. It's buyer's choice. I like Tyreek Hill moving forward over Cooper Kupp because I can't trust Matthew Stafford. That team feels like a house of cards. It could all blow up sooner than we all anticipated, like we saw this year.
That's my biggest fear. And like Jalen Waddle had a pretty decent game against Buffalo. So if Jalen Waddle is kind of back to where he is, it's better for Tyreek. The better Jalen is, the better it is for Tyreek Hill. It's really as simple as that. Kelsey, it doesn't matter what's around him. He's Travis Kelsey.
I'm not questioning Cooper Kupp being back to being Cooper Kupp. I'm questioning Matthew Stafford's ability after this season to keep Cooper Kupp in Cooper Kupp level form. Oh yeah, if Cooper Kupp's available, draft him. But in terms of the players that you can keep instead of Cooper Kupp, I still think you could lean Kupp over Hurts. But in terms of 4 keepers, you can't let Kelsey go. Can't let CMC
then
go.
At that point, you have Kupp, Hill, CMC, and Kelsey. Most of your skill positions are done.
Receiver's the deepest position in the league right now, too. So you can afford to have Tyreek Hill as your wide receiver 1. And at that point, if it's, I don't know how many teams are in this league. If you're looking at a 10-team league, you have 4 keepers apiece. Every roster is keeping 4 players. So made 14 trades. My big flex, I don't have a single player I drafted. Fair enough.
67 total transactions. Hey, man, whatever gets you to a championship, that's all that really matters. I like CD there, but because
I don't like
he's
CD
so
there.
Young. Well,
if it were Dynasty, you can't let CD Lamb go because you can keep like a larger amount of players. The thing about keeper redraft leagues is genuinely you're not looking towards 4 years down the road. You're looking towards next season.
Yeah.
CD Lamb is not going to be better than Tyreek Hill. CD Lamb may be better than Cooper Kupp. He's not going to have more value than a guy like CMC. And Jalen Hurts is going to be one of the top 3 quarterbacks off the board next year, barring any nefarious stuff in the offseason or anything crazy happening to his offense. So you've got 40 players that aren't going to be in that pool. Tyreek Hill is a guy that Cooper Kupp was 22 a game per game this year.
He's nuts.
Lamar, Brees, Kamara, Jefferson, Chase, Goddard, Metcalf, and Godwin. Yeah.
Losing Brees hurt a lot of people this year. Losing Chase
but after the keepers clear, you're going to have a myriad of talented dudes because I don't know a lot of people that are keeping the rookie receivers from this year unless their team is just not that stacked, or if it's a deeper league. But based upon the construction of your friend's team, I'm assuming it's 8 to 10 teams. From the way that team is built, unless he's masterful with trades, you could be looking at a receiver
32 team league
where DK Metcalf, Marquise Brown, Chris Godwin, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Michael Pittman Jr., McLaurin, Debo could even not be kept. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Juju, Ayuk. The amount of talent at wide receiver in the NFL. So it's an 8-team league.
Oh, there's going to be so much talent to draft. So much.
And that even, you know what? You could even pass on Jalen Hurts. You know what? I wouldn't because it's a super flex. But if you believe in Cooper Kupp that much, if it's an 8-team league, there's this total of 16 quarterbacks starting every week. I rattled it off. If you go from the 5th best guy to the 21st, the separation in points per game is like about the same as 1 to 5. So if your skills are good enough, they can carry any quarterbacks.
Yeah. Man, Brees Hall, though, seeing that name, he is going to be move Kyle Pitts for CMC. That's wild. That's wild. Who hates CMC that much? I love Christian McCaffrey. But man, Brees Hall, that's a top 5 dynasty back. That dude is going to be so good when he comes back. It's actually insane. Kupp, Hill, CD were his keepers prior. Yeah, I get that for sure. But yeah, it was a wild week. DeAndre Hopkins, it's going to be really tough for me to start Hopkins this week. And yeah, a lot of people this is your 101 in fantasy drafts, in fantasy rookie drafts. That's what everyone's saying. super flex or not, Bijan Robinson could go to the Eagles. And if he goes to the Eagles,
Caden, I'm okay. Never mind. I just read he moved Kyle Pitts for CMC week 1, which is insane.
blows my mind.
Phone me the name of that manager. I just want to talk. No, because I was sitting there and I was like, Cup, Hill, CD, and Kelsey were his keepers from the year prior. I was like, and then he drafted fucking after 40 players cleared, he was able to draft CMC. Hell yeah, that's how I would have felt if I got Saquon in your cousin's league. Because I was like, oh my god, I can get Saquon.
I am in the same exact position as you, Caden. If Colt McCoy, I can't believe I'm saying this. If Colt McCoy plays on Sunday, then you can probably start DeAndre Hopkins and feel okay about it. DeAndre Hopkins looked pretty fine when Colt McCoy played the 2 games Kyler was out. If Colt doesn't clear concussion protocol and Trace McSorley is playing, I would explore other options. Now, if you have a hammer of an option already, like you have a solid wide receiver, then start him over Hopkins, even if Colt McCoy's playing. But if you're kind of on edge and you're like, well, I'm going to start, the David Bell instead or something, like it's a desperation. Yeah, and Colt McCoy, we've talked about Colt McCoy a lot. He's a serviceable guy. He's going to turn the ball over. He's never been a starter. He's never been good enough to be a starter, but he's a serviceable second, and he can feed a talented guy like DeAndre Hopkins. And DeAndre Hopkins putting up an insane year for missing the first 6 games. He's going to be insane next year. I love DeAndre Hopkins. I love Kyler Murray. I love everything that is Arizona offense except for Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury ruined my life. He took my lunch money.
I wish Cliff Kingsbury best player on waiver wire is DJ Moore. That is accurate. That should be about the best player you'll see on the waiver wire. Yeah, DJ Moore is the.
Who does Carolina play next week? They play this. Oh no, they played the Seahawks a couple weeks ago. They play the Lions. Nope, not starting DJ Moore. Nope, not against the Lions. And Aguilar, not startable. You might be with me in starting Hopkins. I don't have a better option for Hopkins either. I might, but I probably won't. That reminds me, I need to pick up Marquise Goodwin once we get off of here, so I can start Geno Smith, Ken Walker, and Marquise Goodwin all in the same game, and literally live my championship dreams on Seattle. Am I going to get picked at the goal line by Malcolm Butler? It's definitely possible. Man, I really don't know how to feel about Zeke and Pollard. Like, I feel like Pollard is going to. I don't think Treylon Burks even plays, to be honest with you. But I mean, if Treylon Burks plays, you could probably play him against Houston. Actually, probably not. They're not going to throw the ball. Never mind. They're not going to throw the ball against Houston. But Pollard's going to go somewhere next season. And how do you feel about Zeke? Like Zeke's had. I'm not going to say it's a resurgent year, but it's definitely been a better year for him. And obviously, I think that's because of Tony Pollard, because they kind of have that friendly competition. But I don't know. I see a lot of hate about Zeke. There's a lot of hate about Zeke going in, but he's had a really good year. And obviously, he's going to be a running back for the Cowboys moving forward on technically one of the best offenses in the league. So,
Zeke
go for it.
So, you have an out after this year where his dead cap would be $11 million. So if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year, or they're going to do it in 2024. Worst case for Zach is, or for Zeke, Zach. Worst case for Zeke is if they retain Tony Pollard somehow. If they bring back Tony Pollard, cut ties with Zeke, and just make Pollard the back of the future, which I would not put it past them. Zeke's only 27 years old, which is the craziest part about the position of running back in the NFL. Wow. It's a one contract gig for most of these guys. You get paid as soon as you're eligible, or you get extended off of your rookie contract for a good amount of money. And it's just really difficult because this contract's carrying him through to his age 32 season. He's not finishing this contract in the Cowboys. It's just not how that's going to work. Because if there was anybody that could prove this trend to be factual, look at Todd Gurley. I know his knees went out, which was really tough for him. But if Todd Gurley can be expendable and replaced, or Le'Veon Bell, running backs at this point in the NFL are like not even few and far between. Running backs, the position is just so saturated with young, diverse talent. There are
Yeah.
players that are chomping at the bit to get attempts, because running back at the end of the day is it benefits from the receivers. It is important that you have a good offensive line. You could put a number of NFL running backs behind the best offensive lines, and they will give you good to great results. And I don't think that's hyperbole. It's great for
Yeah.
bad teams whenever you have elite talent and they can make things happen with terrible offensive lines, but championship teams tend to have that thing solved. So they don't need to pay guys that premium amount.
I mean, yeah, I mean JT last season benefited from Carson Wentz being not too bad, but then you see what happens when they're constantly turning the ball over and not controlling the game. It all of a sudden JT from the 101 in redraft falls almost to a second round pick in terms of value, and he's been much better, I would say, before he got injured. He was, since Jeff Saturday took over, basically he had been better. But I mean, yeah, JT's extremely talented, but the line, the quarterback, the receivers all regressed, and JT unfortunately went with it. It literally goes right into your point, Devin. Like he is elite, and he was able to do stuff with trash, but when it wasn't trash, he was even better.
Yeah, and that's why I think that the Zeke and Tony Pollard thing may even continue into next year, just because the output you've gotten from Tony Pollard on a dollar, if you're developing a cost ratio for this, the output Pollard has given you over the last 2 years compared to Zeke's, dollar for dollar, the value is in Tony Pollard, and I think you don't have to pay him an exorbitant amount of money to keep him around, because the
So
running
you
back
think he
market,
gets tagged?
I would think it would be. I think it would make no sense not to tag him, and you could probably ink him to an extension that is pretty team friendly in the grand scheme of the salary cap.
Well,
Zeke's
the
making
thing is
10 million a
too.
year. Zeke makes 10 million a year currently on this new extension, on the extension that he signed. Tony doesn't make 10 million a year on his new deal. And do you think someone's going to pay Tony Pollard 10 million plus to play for their football team, knowing how many backs come into the league year in and year out, and how many guys can you? Because essentially every back from Tony Pollard's class is either getting tagged or being replaced. Damian Harris, welcome Ramondre Stevenson. Josh Jacobs, he's getting a franchise tag. Saquon Barkley, he's getting a franchise tag. Philadelphia Eagles, Miles Sanders. Hello, Bijan Robinson, question mark. You know what I'm saying? Like, running back, it's a tough ass position to play because it's impossible to get paid in the modern NFL.
Yeah.
Unless you were drafted pre 2016 or you were Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara or Dalvin Cook, you're going to have a really tough time finding that next contract. And the players that do are guys that play more of a scat back, like Austin Eckler, than your traditional give me 20 carries, I'm going to go and run. Nick Chubb got a deal, but if I show you Nick Chubb's numbers, you'll be like, oh, okay, makes sense. So Nicholas Chubb, give me the deets.
And the thing is, too, we spent the franchise tag on Dalton Schultz, and like Peyton Hendershot has been playing better, so like we could let a guy like Schultz walk, and it's really not gonna break the back of the offense. Letting Amari Cooper walk was the problem. Well, trading Amari Cooper was the problem. Bijan to Buffalo, that would be something, but I don't see Bijan falling that far.
Yeah.
Buffalo would have to move up, and I just don't foresee the Buffalo front office doing that. And you are correct, Caden. Allen cannot continue to be the leading rusher. We've said it for the past 2 years that this is why they can't succeed, because they don't have a running back they can trust.
Well,
but are they a team that would pay Tony Pollard?
They'd pay Miles Sanders, I guarantee it.
Yeah, that too.
So that's the thing right here. So you look at a player like Nick Chubb. He made $920,000 last year. A little over $1 million this year. He makes $10 million next year, $11 million the next year, but he's a free agent at 30. The Cowboys are paying Zeke like $10 million a year for the next 3 years. You only get hit with Nick Chubb's deal 2 years of $10+ million. Yeah. So extensions for running backs are really. I'll even look up the Kamara deal, just because we need the proper context for whoever we're going to be discussing.
Kamara's a whole episode, man. I don't.
And even in Kamara's deal, even in Kamara's deal, he's only making $1 million signing bonus this season. His base salary is $1 million. He makes $9 million next year, $10 million the following year. There's an opt out after next year, but his age 30 season, this is where it gets weird. He makes $22 million. They are backloading they're backloading the contracts of these running backs, and that's how it's going. But the Cowboys didn't backload it.
To be fair for the Saints, they're backloading everybody. Look at pull up Michael Thomas's contract. That's backloaded. The Saints have been in cap hell for 10 years.
And even Christian McCaffrey, he makes $690,000 this year on the Niners books. Mm-hmm. Next year, he makes 11-8, 11-8, and then 12. And he's an unrestricted free agent at 30. Christian McCaffrey is arguably the best back football has had over the last 5 years in terms of raw talent. Mm-hmm. He makes $2 million more than Zeke. It makes sense. But teams aren't going to pay players over $10 million unless you are that guy. Derrick Henry makes $4 million on his base salary this year. Like, he signed a 1-year, $10 million extension. It's a franchise tag, effectively.
Yeah.
He's been franchise tagged year in and year out. Nobody's getting the long-term running back contract from the team that drafts them.
Well, because they can't survive it.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd much rather the Cowboys.
Did the Rams pay Todd Gurley? Or did he fall apart before? But you're right. The thing for Tony Pollard and Zeke, like, Zeke will be okay moving forward, but without a number 2 guy that can shred like Tony Pollard has, and it really makes you question Tony Pollard's value moving forward in like dynasty and all that. And I don't know if Tony Pollard has, and this might sound ignorant because he had extremely huge games with Zeke out, but I don't think Tony Pollard or really anybody these days can afford to take, 400 carries a year unless you're just built like a tank. And even then, Derrick Henry fell down last year. He's having a good year this year and has been able to survive the carries, but their lifespan is shorter and shorter.
Yep.
And like you said, nobody's going to pay them once they become free agents. Exactly. Like you said, Barkley's getting tagged, Jacobs is going to get tagged, and they'll keep getting tagged and they'll keep getting paid a little bit until they fall off and new blood will come in.
If you want to see what Tony Pollard is going to get paid, this is what you should expect. Look at Austin Eckler's contract. It's a 4-year, $24.5 million deal. He's a free agent in 2024. His first contract was the entry-level one from 2017 to 2019. 3 years, $1.6 million. Eckler has been one of the best touchdown producers in football, regardless of how you look at it. He scored the most touchdowns of anybody over the last 2 years. He's at like 34 now.
Yeah.
He got paid 1.5 in 2020, 4.25 in 2021, 5.5 this year, and 5.75 next year. Mm-hmm. That is the Tony Pollard number. Is Pollard better than Eckler? No. But that's what the Cowboys can pay Tony Pollard to keep him around. And that's a hell of a lot more compelling than paying Zeke that $10 million, especially whenever you have to keep CeeDee Lamb around. You have to retool the offensive line. You got to pay Dak what he's getting paid now.
Well, and the thing is, too, Zeke got paid practically in the last year of people not really seeing this yet.
Well, the thing was, we did not foresee the quarterback contracts taking that leap. And that's the biggest thing.
True.
The salary cap has been restructured and reshaped based upon what individuals are getting paid on a yearly basis by position. Running back just does not have the premium that offensive line, perimeter defender, quarterback, and it's safeties, corners, this is the hierarchy. Quarterback, offensive line, it goes quarterback, I guess receiver a little bit, but then you also look at like cornerbacks and safeties, offensive line, all grouped into like that. There's the quarterbacks, then everybody else essentially.
Yeah.
But the players that have the best impacts on the games are the quarterbacks, and the guys the quarterbacks get the ball to the most, the guys protecting the quarterbacks, and the people trying to stop the quarterbacks.
Yeah, because at this point there's no Trent Dilfer winning Super Bowls. That's over. It's been over for a long time. But at this point we've talked about it multiple times, you need a top 10 quarterback to win. And like right now, Jacksonville, we could talk about Allen, Mahomes, all that. We already know all that. But you look at a team like Jacksonville, they might have their guy now, and now they've given them really good wide receivers. Like Christian Kirk has been pretty good. Calvin Ridley, I think, is going to be a freaking monster. Travis Etienne is a beast. If they build that line and build that defense, they're Super Bowl contenders.
And then to put things into the proper context, even if you're paying a quarterback that isn't top 5, Jared Goff makes $10 million a year.
True.
He's making $20 million next year, $21 million the year after. And that's like the baseline for – he was the first quarterback to get that kind of deal. It seemed like, in terms of like the guys that were next up. And then obviously Mahomes got his deal, and now this $20 million a year seems pretty affordable. But that's the point of it all. I expect Pollard to be the back in – and then the running – Caden says it best, the RB by committee. It's prolonging NFL running backs' careers. Yes. You can't just LT the thing, and it's
anymore.
You're not going to see 300 touches a year for guys. It's just not how it's going to work. So plan accordingly.
DBs hit harder these days, and your body takes a toll.
Austin, do we want to do picks for the teams this week, or are we just gonna? We could post them on Twitter if you want.
We'll post them. We'll get on out of here. It's almost my bedtime.
I got to pick up dinner, my friends, but we appreciate everybody tuning in. Caden, appreciate you hopping in. Love the conversation. And then Lincoln, happy you're back after the Sunday show. But we appreciate all you guys. Feel free to catch us every Sunday and Monday, some Saturdays. Austin, you're going to do the Saturday show by yourself, if I'm correct. I'll chime in whenever I can to be at work.
Yeah, so obviously you catch us here every Monday night until that changes. Every Monday night around 6:30 Pacific time during Monday Night Football. We're usually on every Saturday morning doing fantasy start sits. This week it'll be Saturday morning because that's when the big slate kicks off. I will be here. We will have a guest. So I will have somebody with me here, and Devin will be in the chat. So we'll all get to the fantasy start sit Saturday morning, an hour before kickoff, getting you those semifinals matchups, and we'll obviously help you get those finals matchups. Catch us on Twitter, Instagram, and obviously on YouTube at TMSM Podcast. Like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Twitter. If you need anything from us, obviously we're always on Twitter. Happy to answer any questions or chat it up. Devin, that's all I got.
Hey, man, if I've said it once, I've said it again. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Whatever holidays you celebrate this festive season.
Educated.
Happy holidays to everybody, and to all a good night. Until we see you guys again, I got one word for you. Peace.